Hey guys, everything new under the sun. So I bought an impact wrench, a Makita impact wrench. I was taking nuts off, lug nuts off by hand, and it was hurting my arm. And I was using my little 3/8 inch impact driver for a while from Makita, the one I just showed you, and I kept breaking the little impact shaft because I was trying to take lug nuts off. So I went ahead and got this one. This was $125 Canadian off Amazon, which is a really, really good price. Now, this is an older generation impact. There's no high or low speed on this one, but it is an LXT. It is a brushed version, and I was a little concerned about the power of it, but as we'll see in the upcoming clips here, it worked amazingly well. I was super pleased. It had a pile of power. I have a Honda Pilot that I need to take the lug nuts off of, and that's 19-inch lug nuts. And then I also have a camper with 21-inch lug nuts, all of which I had to deal with, and otherwise I would have to break them with a tire iron before I could actually use the impact wrench, or the impact driver rather, before it would actually spin them off. This one's pretty cool. Again, $125, comes with a manual. It is, of course, the 18 volt. And I'm just comparing it. It's similar vintage. You can get newer impact wrenches with multiple speeds and battery status indicators on them, etc. And they're a little bit smaller and a little bit stronger. But this one, they're $200, $300. This was $125, brand new off Amazon. I was pretty impressed. So this is a 1/2 inch impact wrench. It is the DTW251Z, so I think Z just means it's the tool only, effectively, no battery or anything. And it is the 12.7 millimeter or 1/2 inch size drive on it. Nothing to say about the box there. I mean, it's pretty basic. Obviously, I didn't show you the side with my address on it. But you can look at it there. I've got a 4 amp hour battery, and the battery has its own indicator, so I don't need that on the wrench itself. It has a basic light, and these lights seem to work fine. There's fancier versions with multiple lights, but it works fine. The tip of it, the rubber tip, is glow in the dark. That piece, there's a piece of plastic shrouding over it. I guess you can take that off. Like I say, I was kind of worried about the strength of it, but I think it's effectively a double or more in terms of the lug nut removal power of the impact driver itself, but a similar size. And they are brushed, but you can purchase new brushes for them and replace the brushes. So I wasn't too concerned about that. So in a second here, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at taking off some lug nuts. So I start with so there's the tires on the camper that I'm going to take off. Those are the 21 millimeter. But I first want to start with the Honda Pilot, because there was some comments where people said that this couldn't take off lug nuts of a Honda Pilot, which are supposed to be like 90 pound-feet of torque or something. Now, I don't torque anything down. I simply do them to the strength of my arm with a tire iron. And look at this one. I mean, they're coming off like butter on this thing. The camper actually turned out to be quite a bit harder with the 21-inch millimeters. It took a little hammering, but they did come off. I had no issues. I didn't have to get the tire iron. So these are torqued by me, torqued by hand. I've been doing them for 20, 30 years myself, taking my tires on and off with a tire iron, and basically tightening them good and stiffly with a tire iron. Here's the camper. These are the 21-inch lug nuts. Now, this is a new tire, so these lug nuts had been off before. They're dark because they had some WD-40 on them. Those work fine. Here's one of the older ones, the rusty ones. This wasn't too bad. It's only when I get to the other side, but you'll hear how long it takes, basically, that the impact is running in the background. You'll hear how long it takes for it to finally break them loose. But I was super impressed. Before, I was doing this just with my arms, and I hurt my shoulder, and boy, I don't have to stand on tire irons anymore, and that is a real treat, to be honest. It's always, when you have the right tools, things work. This is an example of one where the lug nuts were harder to take off, but they eventually came. These were not cracked before by me. I don't think I had ever taken this tire off before, so it worked really well. I also like that the fact that this impact wrench doesn't have as much torque means that you can also torque them up on the tire with the impact wrench itself without the fear of over-tightening or stripping the threads, so it's not overpowering It's just right enough power, just enough power to get the lug nuts off, and just enough power to snug them up nicely to get them back on there. So like I say, I was super impressed. So just to prove it, there's the 21 millimeter rather lug nut. Some people said the max that this thing can handle is a kind of a 21 millimeter lug nut, and that may be. I don't have anything larger. The Suburban that we had, which I didn't, we sold, but it had 21 millimeter lug nuts. So I would assume it would be able to take those off as well. Yeah, it had to hammer a little bit, but it had no trouble. It hammered for about, I don't know, 2 seconds before it finally pulled it off. There you can look at some of the specs. You can pause the video. It's just your standard 18 volt, and it's a slower RPM. But you don't need speed when you're taking off lug nuts necessarily. You want power, and that's exactly what this delivers. So yes, it's an older version. Brushed, the brushless would be more powerful, but it certainly worked. I give this unit a 2 thumbs up. I'd give it 3 thumbs up if I could. For the price of being only $125, it worked. It's super deal on a official Makita wrench. I was actually looking at getting a Ryobi just because it was around the $100 range because I couldn't afford the Makita, but then I found that deal. So I did go after and just, here's what I do. I take the tire iron and I just tighten them up. I snug them up by hand, and this is what I always do on my vehicles, and that's plenty. I have no idea what the torque is, but I just do that to be safe after. You never want to tighten it with the impact wrench and then just walk away. You want to torque them up a little bit, but that's all I do. So thanks for watching. A little bit of a review and unbox of the Makita impact wrench. Well worth the money. The proper tools make all the difference for the job.